So here is a biblical sort of question that I received. What did the other apostles have to say about fleeing the crucifixion? Did Peter deny 3 times, or is that propaganda? What do you know about Paul during this time? They're great questions. So let me talk about the first one first. What did the other apostles say about fleeing the crucifixion? That was a huge part of the plan. Joshua did not want them anywhere near anyone who would kill them for being a follower. The only reason John was there in any stretch of the imagination was to be there because he was basically in charge of taking care of Joshua's wife and his mother. And so John was there as their defender, as their person taking care of them. And that's the only reason John was there. Everyone else was told to stay away. It wasn't that they were hiding per se. They weren't there because they had to go hide in the hills. They had to hide from the persecution because Joshua's belief was he was not important. Only what he taught was important. That's why he spread them out to all the different lands, take the teachings out to these other lands, and spread it to the other lands. That was the most important part of the crucifixion, and they weren't cowards. They weren't people living in fear. They were people who were literally told, nothing is more important than what I taught you, and nothing is more important than you getting that teaching out to the world. And that's why it happened the way it did with the disciples. So we all understood. We all knew. We all knew our part. Right in the Bible it says, to John and about John, Joshua says to his mother from the cross in the Bible. By the way, I have no memory of this, but this is in the Bible. Says, "Mother, there's your son. Son, there's your mother." I think it really was just saying, whether he said it for the cross or not, you are now family. You guys, John's taking care of you. I can't take care of you anymore. John's taking care of you. Mother, there's your son. Son, there's your mother. And so I think that's why it happened that way. If you ever heard my regression, available on my website, by the way, my voice there. You heard my regression. At one point, I actually have a conversation with the consciousness of Mary in the regression. And she said to said to me, because you took care of me then, I'm taking care of you now, which I thought was just a beautiful statement. So that's the first part. The second part, did Peter deny, or is that propaganda? I don't know if it's propaganda, but I don't have a memory of it. So I can't say that I know whether Peter denied 3 times or not. But let's go back to the first answer. Peter would have denied anybody. He would have denied anybody because that's the teaching was what was important. Peter would have denied. Now, my memories of Peter was he was a hot-tempered man. He was a big, burly, dark-haired, thick eyebrowed, bearded man, and muscular as all get out. Big guy, and there's no reason why he wouldn't just fight, because he was a hot-tempered guy. But denying 3 times takes a lot of strength and courage. If in fact he did it, it was because he understood his charge, that he was supposed to take the teachings to Rome, because that was Peter's job. He became the disciple who went to Rome, went to Italy. He had a mission. So denying 3 times, I don't have memory of that, but that said, doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it's the intention of why it happened that I think people should question. What do you know about Paul during this time? I don't have any memories of Paul in particular. You have to remember that Paul himself was self-ordained as an apostle. He's the one who called himself the apostle of the Gentiles. He never met Joshua in life. He never walked with Joshua. The whole memory of Paul is supposedly he saw him in a vision on the road to Damascus, and that's how he became the apostle of the Gentiles. You dive into the Gnostic texts and the older texts, and he's written as the great liar, the one who's basically a chameleon who blends in for his own power and his own glory. When I think of Paul, it doesn't. I don't get a good feeling about Paul. But I don't have any memories of Paul in general. I know that I didn't like what I felt about him. So that's all I really know. What I really know about Paul. But you got to remember, the reason people get into the John and Paul thing, which they get into a lot. I got to ask about Paul a lot, is because the New Testament is mainly John and Paul, and it's mainly Paul. But you got to remember, the New Testament was formulated by the Nicene Council, which was led by the Roman Emperor Constantine, right? Paul was a Roman citizen, and Paul sort of had preferential treatment as to his books and his writings making it to the top, right? And Paul was the one who laid out all the rules and laws he had to follow. And Paul was the one who was really giving us the structure of modern Christianity. But Jeshua wasn't a Christian, nor would he be a Christian, because the word Christ means anointed one, which denotes a hierarchy. And Jeshua didn't believe in hierarchies. He believed in oneness and equality. And so the Pauline, as they would call it, the Pauline teachings are really antithetical in a lot of places to what he taught, because it is about the Christ and the Messiah. But you got to remember, Paul's background before he had his epiphany was he used to, literally go around stoning Christians, people who followed Jeshua. He was part of the process of stoning and trying to get rid of Jeshua's followers. And he had his epiphany moment and everything changed. But, I often wonder, from my John Davis perspective, if his epiphany was more about seeing the changing tides and saying, okay, how can I direct this rather than fight it? And so I think I often wonder whether that's why Paul wrote the way he did, because he was trying to get a formation around Christianity that could be controlled. But that's John Davis extrapolating. That's nothing I know from the past life. So I want to be very clear about that. So that I hope that answers your three questions. And have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. The John of New channel is solely funded by your generous donations and purchases of private readings and merchandise. To help out, go to johnofnew.com or use the donation link in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.